Well, hello everybody. Welcome back into the Color Gemstone Academy. My name is Paul Deasy, your instructor, and this is my YouTube channel, Paul Deasy Gemstones. Hope you're having a great day. First of all, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's completely free, but it really does help me keep doing these videos for you. In fact, I would still have a goal of being the biggest weekly free gem classes on YouTube, and with your help, I think you can get me there. Well, this week, our lesson, which is going to be episode 56, I can't believe we're episode 56 already. A lot of people have been asking me, since we now have garnet in our rear view mirrors, which we finished up last week, I'm looking for more of your suggestions, and a lot of people have been asking about Morganite, which is from the beryl family of gemstones. But I decided I'm not going to just do this lesson on Morganite. I decided to call it Kunzite versus Morganite. Now you're saying, why the heck did you do that? Well, for one thing, I know that the #1 movie in the United States of America, if not the world, is Godzilla versus Kong. But no, it has nothing to do with that. These two gemstones and the people that they were named after have such an interesting interconnecting or intersecting history that I felt like I couldn't do one without the other. So here we go with episode 56. And it is Kunzite versus Morganite. Okay, so first of all, what are they, the chemical compositions? Because I'm now comparing one gem to another gem. Well, if you take a look at the beautiful Kunzite, it is a lithium aluminum silicate. And now if you take a look at the Morganite, which can sometimes be very similar in color, it is a beryllium aluminum silicate. So right away, you can see there's something about these two that were meant to be with each other. But let's get into the Morganite first, because those are the ones that most of you had questions about. Morganite is the pink variety of beryl. Now remember, beryl has a lot of pretty famous cousins in it. When you think about emerald, that is the green color of beryl. If the color comes from chrome, it's a beautiful Kelly green color. If you see a lighter green color of beryl, it's just called green beryl. It's not called an emerald because its color doesn't come from the chrome. It comes from usually probably more like iron deposits that are near it. And then you get into the colorless variety of beryl, and that is called goshenite. And you get into the a yellow variety of beryl, and that is called heliodor. And then you get into a deep red color of beryl, probably the rarest of them all, and that is called bixbyite. And then you have, what am I missing? No, of course I forgot one. I was missing something, and that is aquamarine, another one of the most famous members of the beryl family. And that is the blue or the sea green blue aquamarine. So all of them are relatively famous, all of them are relatively expensive, but the newcomer to this family is undeniably the Morganite, that pink variety of beryl. Now, J.P. Morgan, as I said, more commonly known as J.P. Morgan. Now, Mr. Morgan was a noted financier and gem collector. He was also known for his financial support for the arts and sciences and his important gifts of gems to the American Museum of Natural History in New York and to the Museum of Natural History in Paris. So clearly the name Morganite was named in the honor of J.P. Morgan. And then you have your Kunzite, which is a spodumene mineral. A very unfortunate name, isn't it? Spodumene. But probably the most famous member of that one, as far as gemstones, is the Kunzite. And the Kunzite is usually a kind of a pink or peach, or sometimes a little even an orange pink gemstone that can sometimes be mistaken for that Morganite. Okay, I get it. So you're saying, Paul, get to the point. Why is it that these gems and these guys are so interconnected? Well, believe me, in the soap opera world of gemology, there's never a dull moment. Okay, so rumor has it that because J.P. Morgan was such a valued customer and friend, that George Frederick Kunz promised that he would name his next gem discovery after his friend. Now here's where it gets a little bit fuzzy. So in 1902, beautiful but identified pink crystals were discovered in San Diego County in California. So those who found this gem sent it to Tiffany and Company and to Mr. Kunz to identify what it was, because it was something that nobody had seen before. So George Kunz then accurately discovered or identified the crystal as. So after receiving the crystals and studying them, George Kunz discovered that it was spodumene. The difference here was it was discovered in a color, that beautiful pink color, that had never been seen before in spodumene. Other than that, you could get spodumene that was green, and they called that hiddenite, but nobody had ever seen another pink spodumene. So that meant we have a whole new classification of a gem to call, just like with the beryl, it's an emerald or it's an aquamarine. What are we going to call this new variety of spodumene? Okay, so we have a dilemma on our hand. What to do about the name? I mean, he's promised that he's going to name it after his good friend and customer. Well, in the meanwhile, Charles Baskerville, who's a chemistry professor at the University of North Carolina and later the City College of New York, which of course where Tiffany and Company was, subsequently had the gem named Kunzite in honor of George Kunz in 1903, because he's the one that identified what it was. Okay, that still sounds kind of fishy to me. Is that the way that it really happened? Or did George have some ulterior motive that he thought the thing was so pretty he wanted to name it after himself? Perhaps we'll never know the real story, but I digress. A few years after that, and I guess that George Kunz and J.P. Morgan are still friends. Yeah, I think it was 1910. Rose beryl was discovered in Madagascar. So George Kunz then proposed the name Morganite at a meeting of the New York Academy of Sciences on 5th of December 1910 to honor his friend and customer J.P. Morgan. So I guess George finally made good on his promise. Okay, that's kind of a fun story. We don't know really where the truth starts or the speculation ends, but in the end they both had a gem named after each other and they had some similarities. But now we're going to get a little bit in more detail, because in my opinion, I think that J.P. Morgan actually got the better of the two gems. And to that, we're going to go to what we call the tail of the tape. Okay, so what is the tail of the tape? You know, that's what they say when boxers, before a boxing match, they talk about their height, their weight, their reach, all of those things. So now we're going to go with the tail of the tape of Kunzite versus Morganite. Now, as you know, we always start with what is the chemical composition of the stone. And I'm going to keep a running total in my mind. And of course, this is all in fun. Okay, so the chemical composition, and I mentioned this at the beginning of this episode, of the Kunzite is lithium aluminum silicate. Obviously, it means it has uses in the lithium industry like batteries, but it's also known for a couple of pretty famous gemstones like Kunzite. The name of Morganite, or the chemical composition, is beryllium aluminum silicate. Okay, so you look at those names. I'm going to put we're tied right now, 0 to 0. And then we get to the crystal structure. Crystal structure, and again, this is another way that a gemologist identifies a gemstone, by the shape and the crystal structure. The crystal structure of Kunzite is monoclinic, and the Morganite is hexagonal. Okay, I still think they're tied. I don't give either one the edge. All right, now we get into the Mohs scale of hardness. Now, for those of you that are new to this channel, the Mohs scale of hardness was instituted by a geologist by the name of Frederick Mohs, and it was literally what gem can scratch another gem. And it goes from 1, which is talc, 7, which is quartz, and then 10, which is diamond, and everything in between. Well, the hardness of the Kunzite is between 6.5 and 7 on the Mohs scale of hardness, puts it just under the quartz on that hardness scale, but still pretty good. Then we take a look at the Morganite, and its Mohs scale of hardness is 7.5 to 8. So ding, 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 we got a +1 for the Morganite in my silly tail of the tape here. Then we go into the next level of the durability of this stone, and we talk about something called toughness. Now, toughness is how tenacious is that gem? How does it withstand or avoid chipping or cracking? Well, we go to the Kunzite, and it is rated poor. We go to the Morganite, and it is rated good on the toughness scale. So ding, 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 we're +2 now for the Morganite. Then we get into one of our other factors of the gemstones, and that's how much sparkle does that gemstone have? And you can actually measure that with something called the refractive index. They use a refractometer. Diamond is about the highest you can get, although there's some artificials that can go higher. But then we look at what's the sparkle of the Kunzite. The sparkle of the Kunzite is rated 1.66 to 1.67. And we go to the Morganite, it's 1.58 to 1.59. Okay, so now maybe the Kunzite's a comeback kid. They're very close, but slightly more sparkle on the Kunzite. So now Morganite's only +1 again. So let's go to specific gravity. Now this will be a very interesting one for you. Specific gravity is the heft of the gemstone. How heavy does it feel compared to its size? I'll give you a great example of that. If you ever saw something like hematite, which is like an iron oxide, pretty dense, pretty heavy. I think it's up there in the 8 range or something on that specific gravity. You get amber. Amber is 1.07 or 1.06. They could be the same size, and actually you can have a really small hematite that's a lot heavier than a big amber. Well, let's take a look at that with these two gemstones. So if you look at the Kunzite, its specific gravity is 3.18. Okay, not bad. Now you look at the Morganite, specific gravity is 2.8. You're saying, well, wait a minute. Obviously, that's another point for Kunzite. No, it's not. Actually, it's another point. So we're back up to the +2 for the Morganite, because the one with the higher specific gravity means that if the two stones were the same weight, in other words, if you had a Kunzite and a Morganite were exactly the same weight, actually what you would find is the Morganite would be bigger and the Kunzite would be smaller. Because of that higher number, it's a more dense stone. So a smaller stone is going to be equivalent in weight to the bigger stone. So I give Morganite the edge because you want to get as much gem for the money as you can get. So we're up to +2 once again for the Morganite. Okay, now let's get into the treatments. Are either of these gems receive any treatment? I know we just did a lot of lessons on garnet, and most garnet's not treated at all, completely natural. While Kunzite is commonly irradiated, which is a low level of irradiation to bring out the color of the stone. Whereas the Morganite is generally a little bit heat treated. So I give them equal on that. So we still have +2 for the Morganite. Isn't this a silly lesson? I think it kind of is. Okay, so what causes the color in these gemstones? Well, in the case of the Kunzite, it's manganese. It's traces of manganese. Just like trace elements in the earth are what give most of the gems their color. Now we look at the Morganite. What causes its pink color? Manganese. So again, they're tied there. We're still +2 for the Morganite. Okay, now we get into the stability. Now, what is the stability of a gemstone? It's how does that gem react to light, heat, or chemicals? So with the stability, the first one is heat. So let's talk about how they react when either of these gemstones are exposed to heat. First, let's take a look at the Kunzite. The Kunzite can lose its color if it's exposed to heat and can actually fracture. Because remember, it was a little less on that toughness scale. It was rated poor. We go to the Morganite. How does it react to the heat? Well, the color could also fade a little bit if it's exposed to heat. And intense heat could also fracture that stone, even though it's tougher. So once again, they're tied there. So we're still +2 for the Morganite. I'm nervous. I'm wondering who's going to win. Now, let's talk about exposure to light. Remember we said heat, light, and chemicals. This is something that it blew me away when I heard it for the first time. Kunzite can actually lose its color when it's exposed to bright light, which means even if you're wearing it for extended times in sunlight, it could significantly fade that stone over time. So maybe your Kunzite is something that you want to wear exclusively as your evening going out to dinner stone. All right, now how does the light affect the Morganite? Oh, and the Morganite is completely stable in light. Want to wear it in the sun, want to wear it in the day, want to wear it in the night. So now we're +3 on the Morganite, and we're running out of contests. Okay, now what happens when we expose them to chemicals? Now, a lot of times when I'm talking about, and even in my book, when I talk about how do you care and clean your gemstones, the thing that I almost always say is don't expose it to, even if it can handle it, I say don't do the steam cleaning, because that can definitely affect some stones with the high heat that is required for cleaning a stone. And the same thing with chemicals. I'm like, your pearls, things don't like harsh chemicals. Acids can damage a lot of stones, doesn't damage some other stones. So the chemicals is another important test, but I'm going to put them on even par with that, because both of them would be vulnerable if they were subjected to, high concentrations of hydrofluoric acid, something like that. So that's why I say whenever I'm talking about cleaning, warm soapy water, like that Dawn dish detergent that you use to wash your dishes, that's what I would use to clean almost any gemstone. Okay. So finally, I'm going to give Kunzite, this is the last one, so it's going to lose, but I'm going to give it a chance to at least make it a little bit closer. And I'm going to go back to the names of these stones, the name of the group that they're in. So Morganite's a great name. It's named after a guy, and it's beryl, from the beryl family. And of course, Kunzite is named after George Frederick Kunz, another famous guy. But it's called spodumene. I mean, no contest. I think the downright winner of this head-to-head competition is the Morganite. It's a beautiful stone. I hope you enjoyed this sort of silly lesson. Keep those suggestions coming, because I do take your suggestions to heart. I know I have a fluorite episode coming up that some people have requested, but keep those requests coming and I'll get to them if I can. If you have not yet subscribed, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Share the video with a friend if you like, and maybe have them subscribe as well. And every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time is our question and answer series. So if you have some questions, send me some comments for that. And then every single Saturday at 10 a.m. is when we have a new gem lesson, like Kunzite versus Morganite. Have a great week. I'll see you all next time. Thank you for watching.